cycle. New York Post comes out with it. They're the only one that comes out with it, and then it is banned on social media.
That's bad.
It's horrific.
That's bad.
Because again, it is. I think we have to. You have to say it. It's a real story.
Oh yeah.
Good evening. My name is Tony Bobulinski.
For over a year, the liberal media and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle falsely said that we were peddling Russian disinformation.
When making the Hunter Biden decision in the midst of an election campaign, we were saying, oh, we got to be careful about Russian disinformation. But all through 2016, 2017, we now know that it was the Hillary Clinton campaign that was creating that dossier, paying for it, and that became the basis of a New York Times Pulitzer Prize.
I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden.
I've also asked the department for records relating to Hunter Biden's October 2018 firearm incident, where his gun ended up in the trash can near a school. The ATF used the Freedom of Information Act to refuse production of these records when that law doesn't even apply to the Congress.
The election, Peter Doocy asked Joe Biden, he said, Mr. Vice President, have you ever talked to your son about his overseas business dealings? And Joe Biden snapped at him and said, absolutely not. So I think the now president probably told a whopper back in the day just to get elected.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China?
I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden in dealings with the Chinese.
Joe Biden was running an anti-corruption agenda in Ukraine, but he pulled his punches while his son was on the board of Burisma.
The question is, why did it take so long when it comes to something as significant, I would argue, as not just the president's son in potential trouble, but the possibility that the president's son, at the time, used the vice president's name, the former vice president's name, to do business in China, potentially elsewhere? Those are legitimate questions, I think, that the media didn't ask.
They went into full Joe Biden protection mode, and they didn't even try to hide it.
With the Hunter Biden case, Twitter took the New York Post Twitter account down because they reported on the Hunter Biden laptop, which now turns out to be completely true. So let's just call it let's call it what it was. The New York Post had it right, but George, the New York Post had it right, and the Washington Post and the New York Times had it wrong.
I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false.
The American people know that it's really the Democrats and liberal media that are connected to Russian disinformation.
On this laptop were emails that seemed to confirm the president's second son was the recipient of gifts from foreign interests in Ukraine and China. The story was a significant development in the lead up to the election, but it was censored by big tech companies. Twitter shut down the New York Post account for 16 days and locked users who tried to share the newspaper's story.
Well, when is it not a bad idea to suppress accurate and relevant stories? It always is, of course.
But that doesn't mean that the mainstream media, A, shouldn't have done more to try to see is this true or not, and B, the level of censorship that it got
on social media,
social media, et cetera, was clearly a mistake. Yeah. No doubt about it.
I repeated to Hunter and others that Sinohawk could not be Hunter's personal piggy bank. Hunter became very upset with me.
At the way the liberal media used its power to cover up facts relating to Hunter Biden and the Biden family.
For the president now to say that, well, he never knew anything about it. He said this all along. He never knew anything about his son's business dealings or his brother's business dealings in the same arenas. Is a little hard to believe. After all, you know, Hunter Biden flew into China with the vice president on Air Force Two. What did they have the whole trip, and the father never asked his son what he was doing over there? I mean, you know, it just doesn't hold together.
Secretary of State Kerry publicly denied knowing Hunter Biden's role on the Burisma board. We acquired evidence that shows that Kerry did, in fact, know about that role. The report also showed that State Department officials believed that Hunter Biden's Burisma board membership created a perception of a conflict of interest and, quote, was very awkward for U.S. officials pushing an anti-corruption agenda in Ukraine, end of quote.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and I will, to the best of my ability,
to mobilize true and international effort to pressure, true and international effort to pressure, true and international effort to pressure.
So help me God.